Alright, y'all, so welcome back to the channel. So, appreciate everybody that's checked out the Banjo Bowl video. We are doing pretty good numbers. We're almost at, I think it's like 1,500 views. Let's just keep it rolling. Let's keep it going. I'm very, very thankful for that. But there's been a couple things that have transpired that I was going to post about, but I had to wait on the actual video from it and also the sound clip from it. And the first thing I'm going to be posting for y'all is we made it to TV. We made it to Canadian TV, y'all. We were on In the Huddle on My Access CA, and shout out to them for having me on the show. Really appreciate that. It's my first TV appearance. I try to get as many of y'all to watch it as I could. I know, people that are here in America really didn't have access to it because you got to have a province, be in a province in Canada to be able to pay for it, access, whatever. You got to have TV provider, I guess, whatever it was. But thank the Lord, the producer Spencer, shout out to you, sent it to me in an email. I have the entire thing of my segment on there, and I'm gonna post it for you guys. I really want you guys to just check it out, because when something successful happens for me, more importantly, it's us as a channel, a community, a family, and I wouldn't be where I am without y'all. And I just want to share this with you guys. It's about, I think, maybe 10 to 15 minutes of interview. So a lot of stuff, honestly, you're going to hear in the beginning is stuff that I've talked about, kind of where everything kind of started. And that's the funny thing about doing these interviews, man. It's a lot of the questions I get, I kind of have the same answer. But it is what it is, and this is just for people that haven't seen, my videos, or they're just first getting introduced to me as a content creator, as a coach, whatever the case may be. So if you've heard these answers before, it is what it is. You're probably gonna hear similar story, or little things that I kind of recall, because I'm starting to discover more where things happened, like where the journey started with the CFL. I posted actually the first CFL video that I ever did on Twitter, and Gino Lewis was the first player I actually reacted to his highlight, and he retweeted it. Follow me on Twitter, so shout out to you, Gino, as well. So yeah, this is the first interview, y'all. So if you're new to the channel, we're over there, subscribe, hit the notification bell. We have memberships, join the membership, and if you still want a t-shirt, you're more welcome to get yourself a t-shirt. So without any further ado, let's get to the video, y'all.
And a big thank you to Boston Pizza for taking care of our guests. A pizza touchdown at any one of our Saskatchewan locations. www.bostonpizza.com. Brendan McGuire, Marshall Hamilton, very pleased to be joined by one of the newest YouTube sensations around the Canadian Football League, Coach Phil Reacts. We're joined by Phil Threet from the Seattle area, who had a chance to take in the game at Mosaic Stadium on Sunday. Coach, welcome to the program. Was this your first visit to Regina?
Yeah, it was my first visit to Regina.
First ever CFL game live?
First ever CFL game live.
What got you, I see that you have quite a few subscribers on your YouTube channel. What got you into the CFL and wanting to do this?
So here back home, when I was growing up, we had CBC. And so funny thing is, I would watch The Simpsons before, the game would come on, and I didn't really pay attention. So one day I finally watched a little, maybe 30 seconds of the game. I was like, oh, this is interesting. This is Canadian football. So then fast forward, I was coming from a flight from Monmouth, Maine, and going to Boston, and then flying from Boston back home. And I was watching a movie, and then I turned to ESPN, and it was Johnny Manziel's first game in the CFL. So I watched the entire game, and I was fascinated. And then the pandemic hit. I got into doing YouTube. I reacted to the greatest offensive plays in CFL history, and I was just going crazy. I was like, oh my goodness, this is amazing. And so that's how I got into it.
That's a great story. I know I lived in Southern Ontario for a year, and we would go over to Detroit Tiger games, and I'd be wearing my Saskatchewan Rough Rider hat, and some of the locals would say, Saskatchewan, and I'd say, how would you know? And they said, I watch Canadian football, because they all had the CBC. So you're not alone, you're not the first one. Right now we've got a clip we want to show of you reacting to a Sam Emilus touchdown catch. Let's have a listen.
Gallo with pressure coming right up the middle. Leads one up there down the field. Come on. That's incredible. He holds it in for the
Oh my God! The Ebony Tree Trio was wilding out today. A member of the Ebony Trio was wilding. Just for the bruh. I see you, bruh. Let's get it.
Wild catch of the game.
He said tumble.
Well, this
And roll.
going
Oh,
football.
look at it.
Looks like Marshall on his living room couch every NFL Sunday. Do you have to do stuff proactively to get people to follow you, or does it just happen organically?
No, it's been organic. And the funny thing is, when I came to the game, when I came into town on Friday, I did not know how many people had seen my videos and how much they were being plastered on Twitter. I ran into one of the offensive linemen from the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. He's like, I've seen you all over Twitter. And I'm like, I didn't know it was that much. So I guess to answer your question, it kind of just happens organically and it's out there. So I'm do what I can, you know.
Oh, here's some
Brendan,
nice photos. Go ahead, Marshall. Sorry.
I was just going to say, I would add to it by saying that he's just got coach has an infectious personality that just it exudes excitement, and people are attracted to that, you know, whether it's watching it on YouTube or watching it in live or person, you know. So I think you just keep doing what you're doing and people will be attracted to you because of that electric personality. But I'm glad it's the Canadian Football League that you're showcasing.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. I just try to do what I can and whatever. I never expect any of this to happen. And, you know, I'm just taking it one day at a time and put it out there, let people down here in the States know that, hey, we got this going. This is what's going on in the CFL. There's other football going on. So just take a second and watch it. Don't knock it till you try it type thing.
I noticed you're wearing the Rough Rider gear. Are the Riders your team? And if so, what drew you to Saskatchewan over all the other teams?
Yeah, they are my team that I rock with. I'd say it was because being from Seattle, you grow up being a Seahawks fan. And there's a lot of parallels between the Seahawks and the Rough Riders. Now, I know the Rough Riders have only won 4 Grey Cups, and we've only won 1. We choked 1 away to Tom Brady, but that's okay. You know, you live with that every now and then. But I love the culture. I love just the fan base. The fan base is amazing. It's great to be with people who genuinely love the game, people that ride for their team, and it's just great to be around them. It was a great experience just to be with them, and the team is great. The coaches are great. Just the environment, it feels just like home to me. So that's how I got into it.
Coach, you know who John Ryan is?
Yeah, he was one of our kickers.
Yeah, well, he's from Regina, so it's interesting that you've got that connection with Seattle. He's got that connection with Seattle and Saskatchewan, etc. So I'm glad you're on our team.
Glad to be a part of it, man. I mean, even just riding through the city and just enjoying just the city. It reminds me of my hometown. It just felt comfy. I didn't want to leave. I was afraid. I was upset when I had to get in the car and drive to the airport at 3:00 in the morning. Like, I don't want to go home, but you know, it's great to be there, and I can't wait to be back on the 21st of October.
Well, we'll take a break here right away, but before we get to that, I did have one more question for you, Coach. I'm sure you've seen some really nice stadiums. I've been to the one in Seattle. There's Washington State football. What do you think of the new Mosaic Stadium? How does it stack up to some of the higher end stadiums you see down there in college and the pros?
Well, obviously being from Washington, you know, you go to Lumen Field a lot. Love Lumen. But being at Mosaic, it's a different beast. It's when you walk down to your section, you feel everything. And even when you're up in the higher seats, you feel everything. It's something majestic when you're in that stadium. I was there Friday, I was there Saturday, I was there Sunday. The feeling never went away. And then when everybody was there, the fans, Blue Bomber fans, Rough Rider fans all come together. It's just something special. So never experienced something like that before in my life.
That's awesome. That's high praise from somebody who's seen some pretty nice facilities, I'm sure.
Mm-hmm.
Up next, we preview Week 13 and make our picks. You're watching In the Huddle on Access Now Sports.
Access Smart Wi-Fi Plus never stops learning. It even detects the brand and model of each connected device to ensure they all reach their full potential. Plug in a pod and optimize your Wi-Fi with Access Smart Wi-Fi Plus.
Time for Week 13 picks. And I don't know if we have the graphic of the standings, but you can see Marshall is way in front, and the Crew jumped in front of me. They're in second place, and I'm a little bit back. I threw a few Hail Marys up that just haven't fallen my way, although I did pick the Riders this last weekend. The first game that we'll talk about will be the the Hamilton at Ottawa game, where the Ticats will visit the Ottawa Red Blacks. I feel like the milk has gone sour in both of these cities. I'm not excited about the Crumback Kids anymore because they haven't been crumbing against anybody. And the Ticats didn't look so great against the Argos either, but I have more faith in Taylor Powell right now than any excitement I have in Dustin Crum. And I hate to narrow it down to just a quarterback versus quarterback matchup, but given the fact that Ottawa is at home and they've been disappointing at home, almost as bad as Edmonton, I'm going to pick the Ticats to win one on the road. Marshall.
Yeah, we've talked about this in past shows. You need to throw up some Hail Marys, so I'm not surprised by that pick. Whereas, I've got a nice, comfortable lead. I can just pick the ones that are going to win anyway. So I think this is a close game. I think that these are two teams and you said the milk is soured, and I think that's not a bad way to describe it. But, I think the coaches, I think the players are going to want to play more for Bobby Dyson. They're going to want to play in Hamilton for Orlando Steinauer. I think Steinauer's message isn't getting through as much as it was in the earlier stages of his career. And they're playing at home. And I think that I still think they have a very good defense. I still think they have good special teams. So even if Crum has an average game, I think that they can beat the Hamilton Tiger-Cats because they're a bit of a mess.
Okay, so Marshall's going to take the Red Blacks. And Coach, break the tie. Are you going to show some love to the Oski Wee Wee, or are you going to pick the Ottawa Red Blacks at home?
I'm going to go with Ottawa. Just off the fact that one thing that they haven't really tapped into this season is their run game. They have if they use their run game a little bit more and not just have to rely on throwing to Bahar and also to Jalen Acklin and make Dustin have to run as well, I think they have a chance. Now, my issue with Hamilton is they have all this talent, probably one of the most talented teams in the league, and they just can't seem to get it right. Now, I don't know if it's because of coaching. I don't know if it's because of the quarterback situation with Bo going down during this early part of the season. I don't know what it is, but at the end of the day, what can you say about Hamilton? It's just what it is, man. Now, they've got a bright spot with James Butler showing that he is the man at running back. But other than that, I got to roll with Ottawa on this one.
Yeah, that's a good point. And if I'm going to win this week, they better feed Butler the rock, and we'll see if they're able to get the ball in his hands. Okay, the Montreal Alouettes at Toronto Argonauts. To me, this is an easy one. I'm not even going to throw a Hail Mary here. You got to roll with the good ship Argo. They've only got one loss this season. It was a game when Chad Kelly was injured early on and was really not responsible for that loss against Calgary in any way, shape, or form. And I think the Alouettes are a house of cards. Even at 6-5, I think they are deceptively bad. Maybe that's because I'm still suffering from PTSD watching Cody Fajardo run around and get sacked so many times at the end of last season. But I'm going to take the safe pick here, and I'm going to go with the Argonauts. Marshall?
Yeah, I think that's the safe pick, Brendan, and that's the one I'm going with, not because it's safe, but because I think they're the better of the two football teams. Toronto, one of the things that I like about Jake Kelly, and we talked about him earlier in the program, is the fact that he's not trying to do it all. And, a lot of times when you just sign a guy to a big contract and you basically told your football program and your football team that this is my guy, this is our franchise quarterback, and I don't think that's going to change. I said Chad Kelly. It's not going to change Chad Kelly. Chad Kelly's going to come on and say, listen, if we can beat him by running, we're going to run the ball. And if I can beat him by me running the ball, I'll run the ball. And if you want me to throw some long passes, I'll throw long ones, I'll throw short ones, whatever. I said, let's just go win the football game. I don't think every player in the league, myself when I played as well included, has ego. I think Chad's been able to park his pretty well, even though he's the franchise guy, the highest paid guy on his football team. And I think he's just finding a way. It's fun watching guys like Andrew Harris pass the baton over to A.J. Ouellette and as the running back. It's fun to watch their defensive linemen and their defensive backs. The way they celebrate sacks or celebrate interceptions, they're not drawing attention to themselves. They're just having fun playing. So I think they have almost zero stress. They're a better football team, and I think they will win, especially at home.
What do you think, Coach Phil? Do you dare throw up a Hail Mary for the Crew and dare pick the Montreal Alouettes to win on the road?
As much as I would love to be different and just throw a hot take out there, I'm not going to do that. Now, I will say one thing, though, about Montreal. Montreal is very, when they're consistent, they're a scary team. When Cody's in the pocket and he's comfortable and he can make some good throws, they're a tough team. Now, their head coach has got to step out the way and let Anthony Calvillo call the plays, man. There's a difference in play calling, and you can see it where Jason Moss wants it to be bubble screen, screen here, screen there, and short passes and throw it underneath, man. That you're not getting nowhere, especially when teams pick up on that tendency. But when Anthony does it, and I could be right, I could be wrong, but I can kind of tell he wants to stretch the field a little bit more. He wants to get Mac the ball. He wants to get other guys involved. He wants to get William Stanback running. He had a great run the other day against BC. But with Toronto, they're on a roll, man. They've hit their stride. They're the best team in the league right now. They're having fun. Like Marshall said, they're just having fun. They're not trying to act like they're better than anybody else. This is what you see when a team is on a roll, and they love playing with each other. They love the quarterback. Chad's not doing too much. Andrew, when he comes in, he can run it on the goal line. AJ's a madman running, man. Gittins out there. Cam Phillips, all these pieces. It's beautiful to watch this team play. But I'm gonna roll with Toronto on this one.
Yeah, it's pretty hard to go against the Argos, and you raised a really good point, too. You almost wonder, like I like to pick on poor Cody Fajardo, and he has a good relationship with Jason Moss, but Cody was at his best here in 2019 when Jason Moss was nowhere near in Regina. He was still in Edmonton. It makes you wonder if maybe there's just not a fit there, even though the two get along, et cetera, et cetera. It'd be great to see Anthony Calvillo maybe put his fingerprints all over that offense. So we have a clean sweep on the Argos beating the Alouettes. The rematch between Calgary and Edmonton this weekend. The Elks built up a nice lead in the Labor Day Classic. They ended up blowing it, but they're playing much better football with Trey Ford at quarterback. They're now 2-2, and he's been slinging it all over the yard. And in my mind, give Edmonton that home field advantage. Now that the streak is over, sadly, I wanted it to never end. But the Elks are back off the schneid at home, and I expect that they will get their revenge. They will beat the Calgary Stampeders this weekend at Commonwealth Stadium. Go ahead, Marshall.
I did allude to the fact that in a lot of these home games of Western rivals and crosstown rivals and interprovincial rivals like this, that I'm going to pick the home team in one game and I'll pick the home team in the other game, and they'll split 1-1. So I sort of telegraphed that I was going to go with Edmonton this game, and that was based on the fact that I predicted Calgary win that one. But as I watched that football game, I went, holy mackerel, Brendan's going to catch a game up on me than this one, because Calgary was stinking and Edmonton looked good. Calgary pulls it out at the end, so I went, puffed out my chest. Well, I knew it all the time. I knew I was going to win that one. But the truth is, Edmonton was the better for those two football teams. So I think they're starting to develop a bit of an identity. I'm not going to call it a Chris Jones identity. I think it's more of a Trey Ford identity. I like the fact that Trey Ford is getting an opportunity to shine. He's such an exciting young talent. And I hope he does really well in his career, but I hope he does well getting this win for the Edmontonelks in Edmonton against Calgary on the game after Labor Day.
What do you think, Coach Phil? Are you rolling with the Elks, or are you selling, or sorry, are you buying what the Stampeders are selling?
That's a tough one. When it comes to Calgary, all season that I've kind of had a love-hate thing for them, because defensively they have a staunch defense, but all they do is blitz. And I think if Trey can stay in the pocket and just throw some quick slants, throw some quick passes, he's going to win the game. Because all Calgary really does is we're just going to send the house and pray to God that our secondary gets an interception, which they're good at. But once you gamble like that old Buddy Ryan 85 Bears blitz happy defense, you're going to get caught. And I think Trey might be the quarterback to catch him slipping and just have success. So I'm going to go with Edmonton on this one.
Look at us, all taking the Elks, a clean sweep there. Okay, the last game, Saskatchewan at Winnipeg. It's really, really tough to go against the Blue Bombers at home. I think they've got, 2 losses in their last 39 at IG Wealth Field. But because I need a few Hail Marys, and I've been really boring and disappointing on this edition of the picks, I'm going to take Saskatchewan to go in there and pick up a W. Jake Dolegala is a man on a mission. He's trying to solidify himself as the #1 starting quarterback ahead of Mason Fine, and he wants to change the conversation even further than that. And this is the perfect time to do it. And going into Winnipeg, I also think that the Rough Riders have found the blueprint on how to beat that Blue Bomber defense, and that's the sideline throws. Richie Hall defense is susceptible to big plays if you can make those throws to the sideline, and we learned this last week that Jake Dolegala can do just that. So this is my Hail Mary for the week. I'm picking Saskatchewan. Marshall?
Yeah, just to correct you, Brendan, you weren't boring with your picks earlier in the year. You were just wrong. That's all. So there's nothing wrong. There's nothing wrong in being wrong every once in a while. But I've said some of what I wanted to say already by talking about these home and home games and Labor Day Classic and the Banjo Bowl, which obviously has a unique name. And this is one of those ones where if you told me Team A won Game 1, I'd pick Team B in Game 2. And right now, I'm confident of that more than I ever have been, because it's Winnipeg that has to win this one at home. And playing Winnipeg after a loss has not been good to anybody that's had to play Winnipeg after a loss. So Winnipeg will right the ship. They'll do it in Mike O'Shea way. They're not going to do it in Dan Marino way or Garrett Marino way, I should say. They're going to right the ship, and they will beat Saskatchewan in the Banjo Bowl. But if you go back in time, and I'll take my lumps when I get them, even if I have to give them to myself. I predicted the Saskatchewan Roughriders would be 4-8 4 weeks ago, and they've surprised me. So they're 6-5. This will make them 6-6. So that's far cry better than 4-8. But there's a football team is starting to emerge, even if they don't win this game in Winnipeg.
I'm glad that you corrected yourself. There's slight difference between Garrett Marino and Dan Marino. So, Coach Phil, break the tie. Do the Riders have a shot on Saturday in Winnipeg?
We gonna win. Ain't nothing else for me to sit there and say off the fact that we showed that we can hang with the big dog. We showed that we can still fight, even though we're fighting for a playoff spot. To go into Winnipeg, to sit there and we already saw what happened. We ain't got to go down the whole Pete Robertson thing. We all know what happened. We saw it. So there's going to be a chippy game. But at the end of the day, we know their weaknesses. We know their tendencies. We know what we have to do. Now, I will say, though, we have to stop Brady Oliveira. That's that. Everybody else, great players, but if they are able to attack our interior D-line and just let Brady run the ball when they got to manage the clock, we're in trouble. So I'm going to go with the Rough Riders, but it ain't going to be easy.
Going to be a tall task, especially with no Pete Robertson in the lineup to try and stop that run game. Hey, Coach Phil, this has been amazing. Thank you for joining us. Philip Threet joining us from the Seattle area. You'll come back again, won't you?
Yes, I will definitely come back.
You can find him at Coach Phil Reacts on YouTube. Special thanks to Marshall Hamilton and to our entire...
And just like that, y'all, that was the interview. I am very, very thankful to have been on there on In the Huddle. Shout out to all of them. They are great. It was funny doing the entire thing. I'd never really been involved in a TV production before. It was a Zoom call. They wanted me to stay a few extra days when I went up to Regina to kind of do it, but I didn't. I really had to get back and get ready for the first day of school. So kind of had to do the Zoom call with them, but it worked out perfectly well. I'm very thankful, and thank you again to everybody in the Huddle, the producer, Spencer, everybody on that show. Really, really appreciate it. And it was a lot, but I also have one more thing I'm going to post for you guys. I did a radio interview from Vancouver Airport on the radio, and I'm going to post that one next for y'all, so stay tuned for that. And yes, I will get to react to the other games that were over the weekend while I was in Winnipeg. And I'm also going to do the other two videos 2 other games that were happening when I was in Regina. So I'm going to work on that. I'm going to get to it this week, you guys, before Thursday. I am going to be on Bonfire with Darren. Darren wants me to come back and talk about my experience at LDC and the Banjo Bowl. And then I'm also going to be on with Ian Cameron on Wednesday. So both of those days, y'all check out those videos as well. And yeah, so we've got a busy week ahead of us and do what we going to do. So continue to be great, strive for greatness, all that jazz. And we out here, y'all.